I never considered abandoning even for 1 second, but that's me. I'm a vet by profession. Pets are very important to me. I've had her since she was very, very young. The question of abandoning her would have been, it's not something I would consider. However, the financial aspect is huge, and I was lucky I was able to find that money to support her travel. If I didn't, then of course I would have to look at options like abandoning, rehoming, etc. But it would have been a very difficult decision to make. For me, however, pets are family. There is no way I can abandon them. So I knew that this day would come. So I had been saving specifically for this. So it was okay, but it definitely was a huge expense. So I cannot totally understand if other people cannot take their pets with them when they move countries. It is very difficult situation that is unnecessarily difficult. She did not recognize us, but she did recognize us both. She allowed us to pat her. She came towards us, but she's still very scared. It's been not even 24 hours. She's still very scared. She's still hiding in a corner. She's not comfortable and relaxed the way she was in my house before, but she's allowing us to pick her up and pat her and cuddle her. I think cats can be extremely attached. I don't think that's true. Generally, dogs are very affectionate and they're very obvious with their affection. While cats are not so obvious with their affection, they are very aloof creatures. But it's not true that they don't get attached. I've been getting pictures from the pet sitter for the last 6 months, and she just looked so sad. The last 6 months, the pictures that I had of my cat was not nice for me to see. She looked very unhappy. She looked very stressed. Not the way she was in my house. She was very relaxed and happy. So, cats will not show their affection, but I think they do get very attached to people. If someone cannot afford, and most people will not be able to afford, that is a harsh reality of it, they should try and find someone to take the ownership of the cat in the place where they stay. So they should try and find a new home for the cat. Abandoning an animal is a really bad idea. It doesn't help the animal at all. Once the animal has become a pet, they cannot survive in the wild. They don't have the skills to survive. And then they feel abandoned, they feel lost. It's not a nice thing. So, if you don't have friends that are willing to take the pet, then there are shelters like SPCA, like SAA in Hong Kong that you can hand over the pet to, and they will try to find a home. But the reality is, these shelters are charities, they're run by charity and they're non-profit organizations. They don't have that much money or space. So they are also in a difficult situation. So it's much better if people can find a new family to take over their pet. So regarding fees for the agency in Hong Kong, I had to pay, I think, can't remember exactly, something like 50,000 Hong Kong dollars. And that included the flight tickets, all the flight tickets and everything was 50,000 Hong Kong dollars. That included the agency fee in Kuala Lumpur. Then for Australia, I had to pay a separate agency fee, and that was about 900 Australian dollars, and that's roughly about 5,000, 6,000 Hong Kong dollars. I also had to pay for quarantine, and I think that was another 1,000 Australian dollars, so roughly about 5,000 Hong Kong dollars. So totally for her transport, for her move from Hong Kong to my house was 50,000 plus another, I think, some $10,000, 50, about 60,000 Hong Kong dollars. This does not include the pet sitter's fee. So when pets travel, they have to travel in the cage. They can't come out of the cage, and that cage goes into cargo. And the pilot has to be notified that there is a pet traveling in cargo, so he will turn on the oxygen and the air conditioning and all of that. And no one checks on them during the flight. So It has to be a healthy animal that has to be able to cope with the change in oxygen pressures and the altitude and everything. So normally the airlines will not take if it's a sick animal or a very old animal. Thankfully, my cat GoldFish is still very young and healthy. So there was no problems with her health and the airlines were happy to accept her. But it's a very difficult time for them because they just get put inside the cargo section with all the suitcases and stuff, and no one checks them until the plane lands and they come to the cargo section. So once she arrived in Australia, she has to spend 10 days in quarantine. The quarantine facility is there only in Melbourne. So the flight has to be from Kuala Lumpur to Melbourne, and she goes straight into the quarantine and she'll be in quarantine, and from there she got released and she had to come by a flight to Darwin and got delivered to my house at 1:45 in the middle of the night.